Imagine, for a fleeting heartbeat, that you are standing in the most opulent ballroom of the mid-19th century. The air is thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the lingering warmth of a nearby hearth. An elegant lady tilts her head, her hair adorned with a celluloid comb that perfectly mimics the creamy texture of rare ivory. But in that silent, graceful moment, a single stray spark from the fireplace or the mere friction of dry static is enough to transform this image of elegance into a horrific, self-combusting inferno. This was celluloid, the first true plastic in human history, and its very soul was forged from the DNA of explosives. When it detonated into violent balls of cyan fire against the scalps of the elite, industrial civilization was quietly perfecting its first violent seizure of the human body. We have been conditioned to believe that plastic was a miraculous gift to nature, a cheap savior created to replace ivory and tortoiseshell. But that is a carefully constructed lie. From the very second of its conception, plastic was never just a material. It was a slow, expanding colonization of the organic world. Those chemical molecules that scorched the skin of Victorian socialites did not vanish when the flames died down. Instead, they learned the art of invisibility. They retreated from the burning hairpins and crept into your kitchens, dissolved into your drinking water, and finally, they secured a one-way ticket into the deepest sanctuaries of your internal anatomy. Now, I ask you to close your eyes and feel. Within your pulsing blood, woven into the very fabric of your marrow, those industrial polymers that have no place in the biological realm are quietly taking root. This is not another tired cliché about environmental pollution. This is a silent surrender of your biological sovereignty. The factory inside your body broke ground 150 years ago, and it has been operating without a pause ever since. Tonight, we shall tear through this translucent packaging of civilization. We will follow that lethal cyan glow that traces a direct line from the Victorian ballrooms to the microscopic reality of your veins today. What we are witnessing is not a mere ghost of history, but the visceral truth of your existence as a living host for industrial waste. You are no longer a pure biological entity. You are a synthesized byproduct of a century of chemical obsession. Prepare to witness the invisible harvest of your own flesh, a process of industrial asphyxia that has been 150 years in the making. Let us descend into the internal factory. As the explosive flames of celluloid faded into the collective memory of history, the chemical titans realized that fear was the ultimate enemy of profit. To conquer the market, they needed a version of plastic that didn't kill, at least not in a way that made the headlines. Post-WYI laboratories delivered the perfect solution: polyethylene and polyvinyl chloride. This time, these substances did not detonate. They learned to embrace us with a soft, translucent touch. Welcome to the 1950s, the clean century redefined by Tupperware, Saran wrap, and the promise of a sterile utopia. The marketing of the era whispered a seductive promise that plastic was the ultimate guardian of the domestic sanctuary. It was presented as pure, modern, and superior to the chaotic decay of the natural world. But this was the most critical pivot in the history of our colonization. We moved from fearing this synthetic invader to trusting it blindly. Every time a housewife pressed a layer of cling wrap over a warm meal, or poured a child's drink into a colorful plastic tumbler, a microscopic transaction was taking place. Heat and time acted as catalysts, causing the polymers to exhale invisible ghosts, phthalates and bisphenol A. These chemical signals were master mimics, disguising themselves as human hormones to slip quietly past the barriers of the gut and settle into the nervous system and reproductive cells of an unsuspecting generation. We believed we were building a wall of defense against bacteria and rot, never realizing that the wall itself was slowly melting and seeping into our living tissue. This is what I call the silent invasion. It lacked the dramatic spectacle of the Victorian fires, opting instead for a slow, systemic saturation. During these mid-century decades, humanity participated in an unprecedented biological experiment. We forcefully tethered the metabolism of an entire species to a chain of unstable, man-made chemicals. Each layer of plastic film draped over a family dinner was, in reality, a signed treaty of territorial surrender. We traded the sanctity of our internal microenvironments for the temporary convenience of the external world. This invisible infiltration never paused. It accumulated within the bodies of our mothers and was passed down to us the very second we entered this world. Your first breath and your first drop of milk already carried the indelible ink of the industrial factory. This history was carefully gift-wrapped in the sugar coating of modern living, allowing us to transform, unnoticed, from biological subjects into storage vessels for industrial byproducts. The trap was set with a smile and a sterile seal. Now, this half-century of preparation is reaching its terrifying conclusion. The silent guest in your kitchen has finally moved from the table into the very architecture of your soul. If you were naive enough to believe that the chemical ghosts released from those 1950s kitchens were merely wandering harmlessly through your anatomy, you were terribly mistaken. This 150-year-long project of industrial colonization has finally arrived at its horrific, ultimate stage, microplastics. These are no longer just materials that we use, they have become an inseparable part of who we are. Today, in 2026, when you drink a sip of water or consume a single morsel of food, you are not merely ingesting nutrition. You are ingesting the most resilient, long-lived waste product this planet has ever seen. The most recent medical reports are unveiling a reality that is truly bone-chilling. Microplastics have successfully breached every last physiological defense humanity has cultivated. They are rooting themselves in your brain neurons. They have infiltrated your heart tissues. They have even crossed the placental barrier, ensuring that the first phase of industrial occupation is completed before a baby draws its very first breath. Now, I ask you to close your eyes and try to feel that visceral mismatch within you, a foreign presence that has no place in your body. This is existential dread on a physiological level. Did you believe that those inexplicable bouts of anxiety, your chronic insomnia, or the inflammation that ravages your body were merely glitches in your neural wiring? Think again. What you are feeling might be the feedback noise that a single polymer fiber, embedded deep within your brain, is sending back to your nervous system. This is not pollution in the abstract. This is a silent, biological harvest. Industrial civilization is no longer content to merely burn your skin as it did in the Victorian era, or to seep into your diet as it did in the 20th century. It now demands a seat at the table of your very genetic code. We are witnessing an unprecedented and irreversible transmutation of the human species. We are transforming from pure biological entities into hosts for our own garbage. The invisible factory inside you is operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It does not require your permission, nor your conscious control, because it has already become part of your essential architecture. This is not a game that we can choose to log out of. Every single one of us is a living, breathing test subject in this massive historical experiment. Your flesh, which was once the masterpiece of billions of years of biological evolution, is now being radically redefined as the terminal product of the chemical industry. We have successfully traded the purity of our organic rhythm for the cheap convenience of a synthetic lie. And the full bill for this invisible conquest is only just beginning to be calculated. The colony is secure. Do you feel that weight of industrial asphyxia crushing down on you right now? It isn't a sudden, violent strangulation, but a slow, rhythmic accumulation of weight that has built up over the last 150 years, in every breath you've taken and every hour you've slept. When 10% of your very being has been replaced by industrial polymers, the concept of self that we once held so dear becomes a fragmented, synthesized lie. This is the ultimate destiny of our generation. We are the very first humans to realize that we have been fundamentally altered at a molecular level. When celluloid burned in the opulent ballrooms of the 19th century, humanity believed it had finally conquered the limitations of matter. When cling wrap sealed away our food in the kitchens of the 1950s, we believed we had finally conquered the chaos of bacteria and decay. But now, as the veil is lifted, we realize that the only thing truly conquered and sealed away was our own biological sovereignty. Our brains are forced to adapt to an industrial rhythm that knows no rest, a state of constant overheating, because our very neurons are now embedded with the jagged fragments of industrial progress. This is not a war that we can simply win back with a policy change or a lifestyle shift, for you cannot excise 150 years of integrated history from your own pulsing blood. However, the first step toward any form of reclamation is to stare directly into the eyes of this biological harvest. The next time you feel an unexplainable surge of anxiety or a deep, visceral emptiness while staring at a screen at 2 in the morning, remember this. It might not be a glitch in your mind, it might be the factory inside you performing its final calibration for the night. We must learn to redefine what it means to be truly human amidst this wreckage of glowing cyan digital debris. This film does not offer you an antidote, because in this synthetic century, pure nature has become a luxury, a nostalgic hallucination we can no longer afford. But I hope this eerie cyan light helps you illuminate the toxic legacies hidden beneath the translucent packaging of modern civilization. This is the hidden cost we must all pay, a debt written into our very cells. Will you choose to accept this visceral truth, or will you remain under that shimmering protective film, waiting for the final harvest to be completed? Thank you for witnessing this chapter of The Hidden Cost. Our bodies are the evidence, our history is the crime. Until we meet again in the next colonized corner of our existence, the internal factory never sleeps.